what we had to do is to really change their mindset, which we all know is not an easy thing to do. And really get them to understand that there was still going to be a lot of great opportunity, but it was going to require a different level of focus and a different level of activity, right? A lot of agents say, oh, I wish we could go back to 2021, that market, it was so easy. It wasn't easy. It was a different kind of hard. Like you were writing 15, 20 offers before you were selling a house. Let's remember that.
Welcome to the Cheplak Live podcast, where I sit down with proven, tested leaders that are real time in the trenches, getting it done. So you can take from what you hear on this podcast and put in your business immediately. And I have a privilege of spending time with, it's a little bit different because a lot of times it's team leaders. And the interesting thing is these COOs, these chief operating officers, they're the true team leader. And I know all the team leaders are watching this. And I'm with a young lady, Camilla, who, gosh, she's been responsible for billions in sales and thousands of transactions. And we're going to chat about her journey in real estate and then in leadership and what they're doing today. Camilla, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let's tell everyone a little bit about the organization. Just give us a quick backfill where you guys are located, number of agents, and a little bit of history. And let's give them that before we jump in.
Okay, awesome. So we are located in sunny South Florida, cover about 5 counties, and we have a little bit over 115 agents currently. We have about a little under 20 W-2 employees. Over the last 10 plus years, we've done 8,000 transactions for $3 billion in sales volume, which is all very exciting. And we're just having a lot of fun.
So cool. I think the most important thing that people are really going to want to know is how you guys are navigating over these last 12 to 18 months. But take us back. How the heck did you end up in this crazy business? Take us back to the beginning and meeting Lori. And I think we'll chat about the dynamic because I get to watch and see the dynamic of the relationship. We'll get into that, which is awesome. But how the heck did you end up in real estate?
So I started on the team about 9 years ago. I was in college. I was a server, but I was going to school to be a teacher. And I was like, let me just explore what other industries are out there. I didn't really know much. And so I started out as an executive assistant for a lead agent at that time. And I was working for him for 8 months, and then he didn't have enough work for me to do. And Lori was like, well, hey, come over here, help me and our director of operations at that time. And that very quickly grew to full time. And then I started going to school at night. And while I was getting ready to leave real estate and start my journey as a teacher, Lori gave me an opportunity. She's like, I think you should be our director of operations. Like, I don't even think you realize the opportunity you have. And I wasn't really sure what to do because that's not what I had planned. But I said, you know what, let me take a chance. I knew that it was a rare opportunity. And I always knew that I could go back to teaching if it didn't work out. And so I became the director of operations, and the rest is history, kind of just grown throughout the organization and been a part of the highs and lows, and just have been, I feel like I was really lucky that I got to work with Lori when she was in the trenches, right? I got to learn from her when she was acting as a sales manager, when she was even selling real estate. And I feel like that experience really helped me get to where I am today.
So I've got a tough question, and it's a tough one for you because I know you're just really humble. And so I want you to think about this because as people hear this background and team leaders are hearing this, I want to do two things. I want a few things. I want team leaders to hear, okay, this is where, because it's always like, where exactly does a COO come from? They come from everywhere.
Right.
And in the mindset and the work that you do. What would you say it is now, because you've done amazing things, you get to speak on the biggest stages in our industry, which is pretty remarkable. What would you say it is that Lori saw in you to say, you know, something, you're an operator? What do you think it was that she saw? And I'm gonna tell a funny story of why I see it is, but you go ahead first.
So no matter what job I've ever had, I've always wanted to be the best at it, right? I've always been extremely resourceful. I've always had I can get it done mentality. And what I teach our employees and our agents is I've always had a CEO mindset of whatever role I've ever had in my life. And I think that she saw that, and honestly realized what my opportunity was or could be before I even recognized that. But I think just my I can get it done, like not afraid mentality is what really impressed her.
I know. When I met you, did you guys have about 15 agents, or did you have 20?
I think we were like right at 20.
20 agents. I'll tell everyone here. I remember you reached out to me and we get on a phone call or a Zoom. I think it was a Zoom. I don't know. So what are you going to do for us? Really? How do I know it's going to happen? I mean, I'm like, who is this? And I like her, man. It's like, and she did it a couple more times over a couple of weeks. And here we are. It was great. I think all of that is true, and I watched you demonstrate it, but I think that leaders need to look for someone who's just got an absolute strength of purpose. But here's the other part that I've seen too is this fearlessness. I mean, you are willing to go forward. Certainly you're a lifelong learner, but you're willing to take action steps, and you don't let fear hold you back at all. Because I think that, and you were riding right alongside Lori in this, because for a while, I mean, you guys were, I mean, what were you doing close to 400, 500 transactions with 20 agents? Was it around that?
Yeah.
Right. And so what was it that finally made you guys say, you know, something, we need to grow, not only just grow transactions, but we know it has to be with people. Where do you feel that big discovery took place?
So I think we realized that we were extremely vulnerable depending on a small group of people. And we also knew that we wanted to be able to provide more opportunity to not just our staff, but also our agents, right? Giving agents the ability to build mini teams within our organization. And we knew that we needed to evolve the mentality that we were just going to stick with a small group of agents and do massive production. And so that's when, I think that's also when you came into our lives and we started talking about recruiting and how to really grow through others. And it was a big shift for our culture, right? I think it took time for our company and our agents to really understand why we were doing it and how that didn't necessarily mean that we were taking opportunity away from them. So that was a big change for everyone.
So, and then naturally to do that, Camilla, you had to start bringing in leadership. What would you say have been, I mean, we could probably do a whole class on this, and it's really important. What are the things you have learned in hiring leadership, in hiring staff members, in the retention and performance? Give us, because ultimately the one thing that you do is you own all your outcomes, and you and Lori have this relationship where it's like a partnership, that you're the one driving at it big time. Not to say that she's not. What are your greatest lessons in leading other leaders, hiring other leaders, etc.?
So we've all heard this: hire fast, fire faster. And I think the one thing that I had made sure of in the past is when you know that they are not the right fit, do not wait. Now, it took a little bit of time for me to learn that. But once I did, I could tell you that when I made that change and I realized how much you can hold back the organization from keeping the wrong person. I mean, when we know it's not the right fit, like we take action right away, like either that day or that next day. Like that's how fast, when you know in your gut and they've proven to you with their actions, it's not going to change, right? Because I really do believe that people show you their best self in the first 90 days or first 30 days or the first week, right? Like that's typically when people are going to show up as the best version of themselves. And so hire fast and fire faster.
Really good.
Because typically when people show you who they are, you're not making that up. Right. And sometimes we try to convince ourselves, well, X, Y, and Z, well, they're still learning, but there's certain things that are just learned behaviors. Of course, you need to train them to your organization, but when they show you the characteristics or that they're not the right culture fit or they're not going to take action as quickly as you'd like, save your time.
Yeah, for sure. What is this is interesting. How important do you think it is for someone in your role? I'm certainly, you want to give people latitude. You know, the sales manager has their latitude, the head ISA does, and the county does, and all those departments have their latitude. But how important do you think it is, and at what depth of a chief operating officer truly understanding what each department head is doing? Or do you think it's, hey, hire good talent, know the numbers they need to deliver? And I'm not talking about latitude, but I'm just talking about, you know, hey, they understand it. Where do you draw the line in that, in the way you've operated over the years and how you've evolved? Because you've evolved in this position.
Right. No, I think it's extremely critical for you to know what they're doing and what they're responsible for and what it takes to do their role, because it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to lead them. Now, it doesn't mean you've had to be in that role at one point or another, but you're riding alongside them to really understand and also to be able to hold them accountable accordingly. And I tell people, it's, listen, especially when they're new in a role, like we're going to work very closely together over the first 90 days. That's typically when you're going to have the highest level of accountability in our relationship. And when you prove that you understand what needs to get done and the results show up, then that's when you back off a little bit. Right. And that's when you give them the opportunity to rise up and take ownership. But I think it's important for you to ride along with them in the beginning, just so that you can make sure you've also given them very clear expectations on what you're expecting for them to do.
Really good. When you look at the business over time and where it's at today, because you guys operate as a team, I mean, legally, my understanding, just like our buddy Chris, I mean, you guys are a brokerage. Well, you're in Keller Williams, but even for years, you were, when it was just Lori independent, you guys were an independent brokerage, but operate, what's the definition? I mean, you operated in a team model. What percentage of, over the years, if we were to take all the years, what percentage of the business would you say has been from SOI, repeat customers, versus going out with lead portals like Realtor.com and Zillow? How has that progressed for you guys?
So over the years, we've typically been 60% team generated. So that includes repeat and referral, and then 40% sphere. However, currently we are 50-50, which I actually think is quite healthier because we're not as dependent on, the business that we're generating. And out of that 50%, I would say 30 to 40%, closer to 40% is lead generation, like all the portals, all of that. And then the rest is our repeat and referral client.
That's remarkable, because most of the organizations, they're at a 90-10. I mean, when you've got plenty of friends I'm sure you've talked to, maybe they're at an 80-20. Looking back from the day that you came into the organization to now, and I think this is really important, Camilla, too, because you pointed it out. Like right now, it's really, really critical that agents will respond and do that work that generates business versus waiting. In the time you've been with Lori, what would you say has been the key of keeping, really, quite frankly, a very healthy ratio of business that isn't dependent business? What have you guys done?
Well, I definitely think that as we grew through agent count, that has had a significant impact, right? Because not all of our agents are receiving leads from us, but they're still active in the business, and we're training and teaching them to do open house, to reach out to their sphere. So I think the agent count has been a big piece of that. And then as well as really training our agents to act as entrepreneurs, right? Like manage your business, right? We're here to support you and you can lean on us when you need to, but ultimately you want to be in control of your business, and it's going to require you to go out and fish.
Let's go fishing. Speaking of that, when do you feel? I mean, certainly we've all experienced the market shift. Um, when did you guys stand up and really make a declaration you feel of, hey, guess what? And how did you do it? The world's changing, the market's changing, and in turn, we have a responsibility to let you know your daily activity is changing. When do you feel that you guys really, put that stake in the ground, and how did you do it, and how have agents responded to it?
Yeah, great question. I would say January this year is really when Laura and I looked at ourselves and we're like, okay, that wasn't just Q4. It's going to continue throughout the year or years to come. And
Right.
so, how do we best prepare our agents to know that this is the current market and it's here to stay? And it's taken a lot of time for some agents. Now, I think it's been almost 12 months. But what we had to do is to really change their mindset, which we all know is not an easy thing to do. And really get them to understand that there was still going to be a lot of great opportunity, but it was going to require a different level of focus and a different level of activity, right? A lot of agents say, oh, I wish we could go back to 2021, that market. It was so easy. It wasn't easy. It was a different kind of hard. Like you were writing 15, 20 offers before you were selling a house. Let's remember that.
That's a really good point, Camille. Yeah, good. Hmm.
And so getting them to understand that it was just going to look different. That was all. And that simple mindset shift has taken time. And what I saw was that I think I actually shared with you that the newer agents into the business, they didn't know any different, right? They didn't get into the business in 2020, 2021. And so they adapted much quicker than actually our senior agents who have been in the business 10 plus years and have been in this kind of market before, but we all just kind of got blinded and could only remember the previous 2 to 3 years. And it's like, no, you've been in this market before. You know how to win in this market. And so let's go back to what got us here, right? Going back to the basics. And reality is that we didn't have to lead generate like for 2 years. And as a company, we couldn't even hold that standard because we just had an abundance of leads. We were trying to beg agents to take them. So we had to change the way we were operating. And, we've done a lot of creative things, getting back to the office, dialing together to kind of feed off each other's energy and get people back in that mindset, so that they can hopefully do the same thing when they're at home and not in the office. But going back to the basics.
What have you guys done? Because we've evolved in ISA. Where are you guys sitting in the ISA space? Because I've had, Goran, he got rid of all of his, and we can show where over the years, your great friend Scott and Deborah and they crush ISA. Then we've got other people in our group that, we decided not to do ISAs, and they're doing really well. Where are you guys at right now in the ISA space?
So we scaled back our ISAs. We used to have 7 to 8 ISAs. We're now at 3 ISAs. And most recently, we shifted all new leads, high intent leads, going directly to the agents, because they're not doing anything, right? Like they're not super busy. They can answer the phone. They can set out 2 days to make sure all they do is sit behind a computer and take calls. And we're having our current ISAs focus on our database using Fellow, really trying to reverse prospect, because we do feel that there's a lot of opportunity right in front of us that's just sitting there. And we want to capture it. And we believe the way to do it is through ISAs.
Do you lead the ISAs, or do you have a sales manager do that? Are you the one that's driving that?
I have a sales manager. However, I am very involved with that department.
That was a setup question. You're involved in everything, man. I know. Yeah, it's theirs, but everything's mine because I'm responding to Lori on it, right?
Right. And we're pivoting, like we're trying different things. Like what do we see is having an impact? And so when you're during those changes, I want to be very much involved and understand, okay, how has our activity increased? What are we getting from here? And we're all learning through it. And so I feel like it's also my opportunity to help the sales manager understand that. But yeah, very much involved in that.
Yeah, really good. The from a marketing standpoint, what changes have you guys made over the last 12 months, budget wise, and focus of where your marketing is?
So we've pulled back from some third-party lead generators that were actually newer to us over the last 2-3 years. That we had stepped into. We pulled back from that. We have Zillowflex, but we have a lot of street marketing. So we maintain that, but we've pulled back from third-party lead generators that we didn't feel were really getting us the results that we needed. And more going all in on just 2 to 3 lead sources. Rather than like diversifying amongst 15, let's really go really hard on 2 to 3 or 4. And we actually just recently, we've done the same with our agents, right? Before, all of our agents would receive all different lead sources, and it makes it challenging to hold them accountable when we all know some lead sources have different conversion rates. So we've broken up our leads into lead products, and we have agents. You can either be in 1 or 2, but you cannot be in all. And that makes it a lot easier for us to manage and hold the agents accountable. So I'm really excited to see what that looks like over the next 90 days, because that's fairly new. But I think that it'll have a big impact.
Database managers, then. So are you pretty much relying on the ISAs to manage that, or do you have another layer of someone else administrative in there, or is it Camilla doing everything like everyone else does and doing your stocking in there too, or all of it? What's it look like?
So it's funny you asked that
level below the ISAs.
Yes. So we used to have VAs that would help us like make sure everyone's reaching out, speed to lead, but we actually just let them all go. And now our sales manager and the sales ops manager, they're going to be the database managers, because that's what it requires. They need to be fully engaged and understand, not through another person, and understand what is going on, what is happening, and where do we need to focus. So we're really excited about that. But yeah, we actually just let them all go yesterday.
Really?
Yes. And I'm really proud.
Smart, Camilla, because the breakdown is, and even we talked to some of our peers in other groups is like, because you guys all have different roles, and I know there's different COOs that aren't as close. I mean, you could be at this point in time, you could be the GM, you could be the sales manager, you could do every single role. If for some reason you said, Lori, and I'm just giving everyone this backfill, Lori, you know what, the COO thing, it has been great. It's been an honor. I feel good to have that on my resume. I'm with you forever, but you know what? I want to drive sales. I know you could be the sales manager without question, but in most cases, most CLOs, that's not where they belong. We know that, and they know it.
Right.
but the key is having people in there that can coach them, not just, you're supposed to do X by Y in this many times, but I love what you're doing because now, okay, great. And how come, and what do I say? And what do I do after that? So,
Right.
yeah.
And I'm really proud because our sales leader actually came to me and she was like, we need to be the database managers right now. And I was like, and it was great that she came up with that on her own because I couldn't agree
Because
more.
it was coming anyways.
Yeah. But she wants to really understand what's going on, and she didn't feel that she could have as good of an understanding if she wasn't the one in there. And she really realized that that nitty gritty grunt work is what is going to make the difference right now. And I think a lot of people, they're above that or they don't want to do that. I mean, I still go in the database like when I want to know what's going on, because that gives me a clear picture of where our gaps are and where our areas of improvement are. So, yeah, I mean, John, you've been saying that for a long time. It's living in the database. It's not, not everyone likes it. It's not the fancy role, but it's what moves the needle.
Yeah. So, operating with these amazing team leaders over time, and then you look at the incredible talent that you've evolved to. What talk about the support? How has Lori both her mentorship, but then also how important has it been for her or for you and for her, for the organization? And for other leaders to hear this, has Lori made sure as a team leader to get you in as many rooms as possible, or has it been, hey, let's just get you over here, but do your job, let's just get you over here? Talk about the evolution of her not desire for you to do your job, but her desire to get you as much education, information with as many people as possible. What's that look like so other team leaders can hear that?
Yeah, so Lori, from the very beginning, before I had even decided to do this full time and make this my career, she had taken me to family reunion. And that was my first exposure to really the opportunity of the real estate industry, like how big we could grow, like all the different roles. And I actually don't think that if it wasn't for my exposure to that event and to the other people in that room, I don't know if I would have been as eager and as excited to take this opportunity or realize how rare of an opportunity this was. And so from the very beginning, she's just always made it a point that wherever she goes, she brings me along. Like, I don't think Lori, since we've been in business together, has gone anywhere without me.
And
Because,
isn't she sending you some places alone now too?
oh yeah, now she's like, why do I need to go?
Yeah, you're the boss.
But and
Cool.
I mean, if you see, like, she's always bringing her leadership team, and we all know that leaders can come back and share all the notes and tell them all the things they want them to do, but it's very different when you experience that yourself, right? And now you're part of driving that change, and other people in the organization see that as well, that it's not just coming from the team leader. So, I mean, she's brought me to all the rooms that she can get me in, and I feel like that has what's really helped me get to where I am. And proximity is power. Like, people always think it's the content of those events. It's the conversations. It's the
Camilla, what would people pay? And I know you'd be humble with it, but let's go back to before you had met all these people. Now, knowing what you know now, what do you think people would pay to have your speed dial of who you could get off this? You could get off this Zoom right now and text all the people and get an answer right now. I mean, think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I just got back from Zillow and Gary Keller, but even being at Zillow, I got to see people I haven't seen in so long. And I was like, oh my God, the value I got to meet new people. I was like, I could never miss another event again, because it's the conversations and the relationships, and that's where you gain the most amount of value.
Yeah, well, and going further, I mean, here's what's pretty neat too, because as someone like Camilla evolves, It's not control, it's about power. You earn your power based on the work that you do. And now in the power of the relationship with you and Lori, I mean, she looks to you for feedback constantly, and you guys get to tangle too, which is fun to watch and see.
Oh yeah.
Your own good way. But I'll give you a great example for those of you that are watching and listening. I mean, the picture from, I think, family reunion this year. How many people did you guys take? Because here's what I know. If Lori's sitting down, okay, we're going to family reunion, Camilla, we're going. Should we or should we not take, or how many should we take? You're going to be part of that decision, period. I know that. How many people did you guys take to a family reunion that are on the
10 people, and we decided that we were going 5 days before. Yeah. And we're actually planning right now, we're going to have about 20 people at family reunion next year. But something, John, that's really important that I think for people to know and hear, and why it's so great to bring other leaders to all types of events, is Lori's having certain conversations with certain people, but then I'm over here having different conversations with different people. And then we come back
more from the events.
Yeah.
But also too, I think, Camilla, is that you two can sit side by side at an event, and you can, the same person, this person can say the same thing to both of you, but then you both bring it back and you have your, no, that's not what it was. Whereas, you know, what happens is most of these team leaders come back and it's like a bomb goes off and everyone's like, what, I don't even know what you're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, people hear what they want to hear is what I say sometimes, right? I like to say I hear what was said, because I'm a very, like, I think it's important. Those little details are important. And, you know, it's so true. It's, you can both be sitting in the room and you both hear different things, and then you get to share that and have that conversation. But I think what I love about Lori is that she's always been open to me disagreeing with her. And she values me disagreeing.
Yeah, that's where I was going to ask next is you know, talk to the team leader right now. Yeah. Like if you're coaching, I mean, because the best coaching, I always tell branch managers or sales managers, your best coach are the agents, because you're going to hear from them what works and what doesn't work, right? And that helps you craft the work that you do. Take them through how a team leader needs to, because listen, they're control freaks. They just are, and they can't help themselves. And let's talk about Lori. We love her, so let's talk. No, talk, you know, your panel in Tahoe is the best. That was like a comedy show.
That was really fun,
right? But talk to coach team leaders right now. Let them know what really works through your experience, and what you would suggest that they don't do. So go free form on that for us.
So someone actually just shared a Harvard Business School study, and it was that the founder is typically not the one who helps the organization grow to the next level. They typically have to bring in talent to help them grow. Now, that's not to be said that if there's a new thing, a new idea, or something new that the company wants to launch in the future, that's not where the founder brings value in again. But the founder is typically not the one that helps the company grow. And I think that what Lori has done from the very beginning is have such an open mind to my feedback and my input. And I think that I earned that by letting her know that I always had the company's best interests. Like outside of myself, I can remove myself from that and just say, hey, this is what's best for X, Y, and Z. And this is how this affects this and that, and really breaking it down. And I think that's how I earned the ability to share my feedback and have that healthy conflict. And she'll say it all the time, is like, I don't want you to agree with me. Like, tell me why this wouldn't work. And those are the majority of our conversations. Like that, we're typically.
I've sat in them, man. They're great.
Yeah.
It's the best.
But I think that if you don't have that, it's really hard for you to have breakthroughs. It's really hard for you to gain different perspectives. And naturally, my personality is as well. It's also really hard for me to hold back from what I'm so passionate about. And she's the same way. So she understands that when I'm very passionate about something, it's because I know how it's going to impact the company and the people in it. So have an open mind, put your ego aside, because you are the lid on your organization. right? If you are holding the people that are right in front of you back from executing ideas, implementing new strategies, you're holding back the organization as a whole.
That is super good. So here we are, current space and time. Thank you for that. Really, really good. The well, Laura, when Dan, who's a colleague of yours and a peer, and you guys are doing an amazing group for a group of COOs. When Dan interviewed Laura, I think on the first interview, we asked her, "Can you tell me no?" I mean, it's a great question. The what would you say to other COOs right now? You're wrapping up 2023, you're going into 2024, and you've got 20 of them. I mean, gosh, you've got a group. I've got a bunch of other people I need to get in your group with you too that are, oh, I missed it. I don't know how you did, but that's a side note. Anyways, I'll get that handled. What are you telling yourself? Which in turn, what you tell yourself is the same thing you need to tell other COOs as they go into 2024. What would be some tips that you would give them?
So one thing that we've really shifted is getting belly to belly with our agents. And I know that's hard at scale because, you know, we have agents that are within 3 hours of one another, but they really need us right now. Not just for motivation and inspiration. People are stuck and paralyzed and they're overwhelmed. And you say it best, when people are overwhelmed, they just don't take action. And we obviously, there's a lot more power. You can have a lot more influence when you're having a conversation in person. So however you can do that in your market, right? I mean, we've gotten extremely creative with, like, we're launching lead pond dialing sessions. We don't have offices in all of the markets that we serve, but we're finding a coffee shop and we're getting together and we are in front of them as much as we can. And it sounds simple, but I think that alone, the conversations that come out of that can make such a difference. And I think that people are really seeking that right now. And we're just trying to keep them encouraged and get them excited about all the opportunity. And I also think it's an opportunity for us as leaders to really rise up. And we're all being challenged. I mean, I'm pretty sure this has been the most challenging year for me as a leader. And Lori and I talk about it all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but imagine all the things we've learned and like how far we've even come from 3 months ago. So it's also exciting.
It was funny. One of our peers in the group, Chap, it's another one of those days. They didn't say good, bad. It's another one of those days. I said, hey, you think every single one of my calls are peaches and cream? I mean, you're one of the many I get to talk to. No, I know it's not, because I talk to everyone that you're talking to. So, but I think it's, it goes back to the beginning of, what you didn't, and you guys are a learning organization. Keller Williams is a learning-based organization. You're a learning-based human being. You're just constantly out there learning and humble and curious. Yet what I want everyone to hear, that Camilla, she didn't sit here and say, train. Yeah, they're going to train people. And they constantly do that. You guys have more training.
I mean, we have 5 trainings a week, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. I mean, I think the training we've got down.
But I'll take everyone back to the beginning. She didn't say, I have to train people to do something new. She said, we've got a new market and we've got to shift the mindset, and that's where the real work is. I mean, that is where, the depth in the relationship. And how ironic I tell people is what Camille just said is, you've got to go deeper with the agents and stay more connected. How ironic. You've got to do exactly the same with the consumer right now.
Yeah.
I mean, really simple. Here's my final piece, because it's great. I love it and I watch it and you crush it.
John, I have to tell you something really funny about your calls. Today, Lori texted me. She's like, I need therapy. When are we meeting today?
Oh, she did?
It's just, I mean, I think it actually this past week, like talking to so many people, and It's the mindset about the time that we're in, right? At the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm failing. Like, I am failing as a leader. Like, this outcome is all a reflection of me and my ability to lead others. And it was really like, I had to pull myself out of that. I was like, okay, that's not going to get me anywhere. And so, what are the things I have control over? What are the things that I'm not doing that I can currently do? And how are we growing every single month, right? Like from our level of activity, from the more meetings in person that we're having, right? Like all the things that we used to do that we got away from that ultimately show up in the numbers. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm sure not all your calls are peaches and cream right now, but
Well, and it always comes back to this is when we are truly measured. And I think too, Camille, I mean, the tough thing is, and you do a really good job of it. And I know Lori too, what I love about the team leaders, and let's just keep talking about them, is people are intimidated by them and they think they're tough and this and that. And they're the softies, man. They're the ones, yeah, but the soft hearts,
yeah.
Here's the final question that I'll go to, because I know you're a good heart, you're a humble heart, and talk about, because really, if you look at the grand scheme of things, you're not trying to, you don't have this, I have this vision of I'm going to be this superstar on stages and this and that. Listen, are there, who knows, but you're not waking up doing it. Talk about why you go out and take your time away from the business that you're passionate about, and go contribute on your own time in speaking and in now coaching up. Geez Louise, you've got a group of COOs you're working with. I think that's the final piece I want to share, because right now you're sitting here looking at a time where, man, I've got to go deeper inside myself. I've got to work harder on myself. But at the same time, talk about this evolution, because this has gone on for a few years now, where you're out speaking and getting these opportunities. Why do you do it, and why do you keep doing that part of it?
So I do it because I feel I have a responsibility to pay it forward, right? I know that I wouldn't be where I am if I wasn't in those rooms listening to all the people that were on stage. Everyone who's ever gone on stage, who's had a contributor mindset, who has been willing to take my phone call and make a relationship with me, I feel like those are the things that help me get to where I am. And I want to pay that forward, and I want to give it back to the community. I also feel that being a contributor helps you grow as an individual, right? Like, what good is it if you don't give it away? Like, what good is it if you're just holding it to yourself? And so I think there's two sides of it. I want to pay it forward, but ultimately, I also know that it's helping me grow and learn as well.
That's awesome. Well, on that note, I'll wrap us with this: is, if you want to keep what you have to give it away, and you do such a great job of that. And I think part of giving that away is continuing to learn, so you can be a vessel to pass it through. Camilla, keep rocking and rolling. I appreciate you, and we'll have to do this again, maybe a few months into 2024, and see where we're all sitting.
I love it. Thank
All
you.
right.
This was a lot of fun.